Hello everybody and welcome back to another video within a 6-month period. I know, it's honestly quite incredible. Today we are going to be looking at the Sturer Emil, a 4.3 German tank destroyer that, if I'm remembering correctly, was originally 6.3. So yeah, let's just put it this way. Its gun at this BR cannot be stopped by anything. You might get an occasional weird ricochet off of like a KV-1 side, maybe an IS-1 if you're facing it, but as this poor ASU is going to show us, you don't even have to hit them to get the kill. But this is not just going to be a video on what I'm going to do in the Sturer Emil, which is completely obliterate most of the enemies that I face. But this is going to be a tag-along video to my main channel's video on the Sturer Emil, which also releases today. So if you find this video entertaining and you want to learn more about the Sturer Emil, well, go ahead and go on over to that once this one is done and learn about the history of this vehicle. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to be doing a little bit of history, but just in relation to what War Thunder has gotten wrong with this vehicle. Before we get into that, though, let's just kind of discuss what this vehicle is in-game and some of the ways that you can properly use it. So what you're going to see me doing in this game on the Berlin map, and then also in the Maginot Line map, which is going to follow, is taking advantage of this vehicle. And I'm going to be essentially using this tank in the way that it was used during World War II. I'm going to be sitting back at range, using cover when I can. As you can see, I'm kind of using this berm with the excellent gun depression, 15 degrees on this main gun, which is pretty much top of the pack. There's not many other vehicles that have more than this amount of gun depression. But as you can see, just picking apart people with this massive 128mm cannon, which I wish sounded more impressive than it does. But nonetheless, like I said, we're using this vehicle in sort of the intended role of sitting back, picking off vehicles at long range, using the advantage of the fact that this gun can penetrate up to 2 kilometers into a KV-1's upper front plate. And, in fact, it knocked out a KV-1 at 1,500 meters, supposedly. Meanwhile, they're shooting at our fairly small target of 50mm armor, which I'm hiding as much as possible behind the berms. So it definitely does increase the survivability of this vehicle, although planes, artillery, and basically any well-placed shot from a slightly high-velocity cannon is going to take you out. Not everything is sunshine and rainbows for this vehicle, as you can see, and a part of that is, weirdly, some of the stuff that Gaijin did with this tank. And I'm not really sure why they did them, because it didn't take me very long to do research on this vehicle, and I've noticed numerous things that they got wrong. For one thing, and this is fairly minor, I don't really have an issue with it personally, because if it wasn't this way, the vehicle would be absolutely god-awful to play. But the top speed is actually slightly too high for this vehicle. It gets around 25 kilometers per hour, but in reality, it should get like 20. Poor AR rail, he didn't even. This gun at this BR is just absolutely insane. Back to what I was saying. Back to what I was saying, though. It's a little bit too fast. That's kind of a minor point. I understand that for gameplay reasons. When we get to the other issues with the tank, though, they are much less excusable. And enough beating around the bush. Let's just get to the meat and potatoes. The crew member that you see in the front right, down in that little, vehicle indicator down in the corner, he's sitting inside of this tank's fuel tank. That little spot up there that looks like it should be a co-driver's position was just a sheet metal box attached to the front of the vehicle. I'm not really sure why they did it. I don't know if it was sort of like a trick to get the enemy to potentially shoot there, or if they just, I don't really know. But they were later removed, and World of Tanks, which many people see as the competitor to War Thunder, and is often claimed to be less accurate, actually got it right with their vehicle because they didn't even include that. All those, the crew member number, or the number of crew, I should say, is correct on this vehicle. It was 5 crew. However, there should be 1 in the front and the remainder in the back. That may seem like a minor issue to a lot of you watching, and there are a few reasons why Gaijin may have done it outside of just getting it wrong. But to me, it's a pretty major inconsistency for a game that prides itself on being historically accurate when possible. Now, let's play devil's advocate. What are the possible reasons why Gaijin may have done this? Well, for one, it does slightly improve the survivability of this vehicle, and I mean slightly, because you have an extra crew member that's enclosed in armor. Do I think that's a valid point? Kind of, but there's plenty of examples of other vehicles like the Sturer Emil, which don't have that extra little bit of survivability added on to them. So why does the Sturer Emil get it and the others don't? I don't know. Other than that, I guess maybe they just didn't do their due diligence. That's kind of really the only excuse I can think of. And here we're going to see sort of one of the bad things about this vehicle in-game. The long reload, well, fairly long. I think it's been shortened considerably, about 17 seconds. And I get tracked by this T-34 who, bear in mind, I can't see any of these indicators. This is just the replay. And the T-34 finally gets me because I couldn't see where he was and I couldn't get the reload in time. But a nice shot into me, and that's pretty much it for this match. The remainder of this game was just me getting killed over and over again. So we're going to move on to the next map of Maginot Line. So getting back to the topics we were discussing in the last battle, there are a few inconsistencies with this vehicle, mainly that crew member in the front. However, there is another slightly minor one, and that's just the fact that they have 13 propellant charges modeled in, because this gun uses what's called a 2-stage ammunition, or 2-piece ammunition. So it has the propellant charges, which are in those front cases, which you can actually see one of them open there, and it also uses the projectiles, which are along the sides in the back there, sitting vertically. Now, this is actually a bit more of an excusable mistake, and really all they're missing is just 2 extra propellant charges modeled in, which honestly makes almost no difference to this vehicle in game. Like, it ups the survivability by maybe like 1%. And yeah, I'm not really that concerned about that, as I'm about to absolutely slap this poor Swedish lad. I think that was overpressure. I'm not even sure. I don't know how that mechanic works. I've heard it's like hull brake, but worse. But anyways, yeah, that's more of an excusable issue with the lack of shells, because I couldn't actually figure out where the other 2 shells are supposed to go. This tank could carry 15 shells, and you can count in the back 15 projectiles. But in all of the photos I've seen of the interior of this, I don't know where propellant charge number 14 and 15 are stored. You can see them numbered. I might put some pictures up on screen, 1 all the way to 13. But there's no 14 and 15, so I don't know. I couldn't find any information on that as I bonk another M4 here in just a second. And this thing is so easy to range. Like, keep in mind, I haven't played War Thunder consistently in probably the better part of a year, and I'm still able to just nail shots with this thing. But yeah, speaking of nailing shots, that's another really weird thing that Gaijin decided to do, and this is probably more of just laziness on their part once again. This shell that I'm using here is the Panzergranat, or PZGR, whatever that is short for. I'm pretty sure it's Panzergranat 43. That may seem, fine, except by 43, both the Sturer Emils that were built weren't in combat. So how did the Sturer Emil get the 1943 shell? Again, minor issue. It's basically just a nitpick at this point, but I figured I would mention it because, I get a lot of people in the comments on my World of Tanks videos who are very insistent. You should play War Thunder. It's so much more realistic. Their vehicles are accurate, historical. And then you get stuff like this, where it's just seems like laziness on Gaijin's part, and it's like, why? Why do you defend them? But, like, I get it. If you enjoy the game, that's fine. I still do enjoy playing the game a little bit, especially at these lower tiers. I had a lot of fun playing the Sturer Emil. It doesn't excuse these inconsistencies, though. These should be fixed. And I hope that the things that I've pointed out will be fixed. There are sources on my main video. I don't know how that didn't kill him. But there are sources on my main video, which if you'd like to submit a report, feel free. Mention the exact things I've detailed in this video, and maybe Gaijin will fix them. I doubt it, but they might. I am honestly just too lazy to go and do it myself, and I just can't be bothered. Like I said, it's really just a minor thing, and I really don't have that much invested into the game at this point. I enjoy it, but I'm not going to spend my time going and nitpicking all their vehicles outside of doing it for entertainment purposes. But yeah, back to the gameplay. Let's finally talk about the gameplay of this vehicle. Do I recommend playing the tank? Is it enjoyable? It's a mixed bag. I do recommend the tank. It's quite fun, especially if you can get into a position like you see me here. Maginot Line, basically S-tier map for this thing. You may think that Maginot Line sucks, and there are definitely some issues with this map, but for a long-range tank destroyer like this, holy crap, it is amazing, especially if you have a good range-finding crew. Because, well, I mean, if you have the range nailed down, you can get shots like that. But for some of the shots, you'll see that I use the rangefinder just to kind of dial in my aim to make sure I don't miss. Because although you would think that 15 shells from a gun that has a reload of around 17 seconds or so would be enough to last you the match, you'd be surprised how quickly it runs out. And to their credit, that is actually a very historically accurate thing. The crews complained a lot about this vehicle, specifically the ammo supply being too little. Because, I mean, if you think about it, in a real battle, you're very rarely going to hit a target on the first, second, maybe not even the third shot. And when you're only carrying 15 rounds, and let's say it takes 3 shots per target, sure, that's 5 vehicles knocked out on a good day, if you're lucky. But it might only be 1, and then, oh, we've got to pull back and go get more ammo, but there's still more of the Red Army pushing towards us. Yeah, that's not really going to work out too well when your vehicle can only do 20 kilometers an hour going forward. But, yeah, overall, I would actually say that the Sturer Emil is fairly well represented, aside from those minor, or, well, one major, a couple minor inaccuracies that they have in-game. But, I mean, like, historical-wise, this is pretty much what the Sturer Emil would have been facing, minus the Shermans, because these were never used on the Western Front, but T-34s, KV-1s, definitely. It's possible they could have faced Shermans had there been more of them, and they would have performed like this against the Shermans, but yep, it's pretty accurate, and the gun does its job. It has a little bit too much pen because the calculator isn't 100% accurate to the documented penetrations, but hey, you can't have everything, I guess. But as you can see now, I'm pretty much just pushing up. We're down to 7 rounds, and I'm not quite done yet. 3 kills was good, but we're going to get a couple more before this battle is over. Pushing up next to my squad mate here, and he is currently trying to engage that Sherman, but as he was saying to me, he can't pen it in the Churchill, so I'm bringing up the firepower, and you can actually see I should have range found because I hit a little low, even though I still go through the both sets of tracks and the underside of the tank and immobilize him, set him on fire, but now I gotta wait, adjust my aim just a tad, and send him packing. Now what happens next here, I cannot explain. I don't know how I survived this, but we have, you saw him probably sneaking up earlier, but keep in mind I couldn't see those markers. And I think the only thing that kept me alive here was the angling, or I don't know if he was maybe loading AA shells or something, because pretty sure the 20 mils on that get well over 30 millimeters of pen, and the rear armor on this thing is 15 millimeters, and the side is like between 20 and 30. Yeah, whatever. I'm not complaining because I lived to fight another day with only one crew member dead. So we shove Hans back into his fuel tank, or dead Hans into the fuel tank up front. He won't complain. And we push up with many, many fresh Shermans and M10s along the ridgeline there. First shot, low, should have range found. But I just have such muscle memory of firing off of my, just what I assume to be the range, which usually works out pretty well for me. But yeah, I really should range find, especially with good crews. But laziness, cutting corners, that's kind of my my go-to. But nonetheless, I'm going to be doing so soon, as one Sherman gets knocked out, and I am just searching for targets now. Yes, this is kind of spawn camping, but let's be honest, what else are we gonna do? We've pushed them back completely. They're running out of vehicles as I pick off another poor Chaffee. Just completely obliterate that poor little lad. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of spawn camping. Unfortunately, it's a part of the game. I do wish that map design and stuff was better so that it wasn't a thing, but what are you gonna do? Like, at this point, what would you have me do? Go sit at the back and just wait for them to drive up? All that's doing is wasting everyone's time, if we're being completely honest. And you're gonna see, oh, I guess you can't see the rangefinder working in the replay, because I did range find to get the range of 1,000 meters, and I absolutely nailed that M10. Can't really take the credit though. Rangefinder did all the work. Nonetheless, though, that is another 6 kills with the Sturer Emil. And I'm going to try to get the last kill on this M4 Sherman here, who is trying to put fire on me, but he's just not quite getting the range. And even though I do get the range absolutely dialed in, turns out he still has spawn protection, so my shell, I mean, maybe it missed. I don't know, I didn't really look, I guess. But I'm assuming it hit and he still had spawn protection. He probably did. But nonetheless, we're all out of ammo, and we're all out of tanks to kill, because that was pretty much the end of this match. I tried to go back and get more ammo, but I knew that by the time I got back there, the match would be over. So, let me know what you thought of this video. Let me know if you liked my kind of little rambly, going off on tangents to cover the historical accuracy of this vehicle. Maybe that's something I can do in the future installments of these replays, is sort of give a brief history lesson, as well as maybe criticizing anything that Gaijin may have gotten wrong. Maybe take the War Thunder Elitist down a peg while we enjoy some nice gameplay, hopefully not just from me, because although I do toot my own horn a little, I am still fairly good at this game. I'd rather see interesting games from you guys. So if you want to submit those, you can do that in my Discord, which there's a link down below. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Go check out that video on my main channel if you want to learn a little bit more about the Sturer Emil. And I will see you back here in about a week or 2 weeks for sure, with a video on another German vehicle, which will also be coinciding with one on the main channel. So make sure you subscribe and like the video if you liked it. And I will see you then.